And now, get ready.
We play the game to win.
Welcome to CatSpan with your host, Kat Beach, and co-host, Nikki Henning. It's just another day on the journey, so grab a drink, a bite to eat, and hang with them for a while as they walk down memory lane.
We play the game to win.
See, I did it. Go ahead. I can't.
Last week she forgot.
I can't. We're like, hey, hope you know where we are.
Everyone knows me. So
That's what it is. I thought, you know
kind
what,
of a
we're
big
just
deal.
Nikki's such a big deal that I don't even have to introduce her. So she's like, Pat, you didn't even introduce us. I'm like, well, you know, that happens. But it didn't happen today. And the other thing that's really important, CatSpan is something, it's a very personal project to me, and it's really bringing a whole bunch of my friends and colleagues over the years and a lot of different parts of my world, from media to school to music to film, fitness, you name it. And so,
Speaking of parts of your world, tell the people what happened.
to parts of my world. I'm not good at talking. Okay, so Corinna, go ahead laughing. So what happened was after, and remind me to tell them to subscribe. Just put that on the notes.
All right.
This last week, weekend before. It's all working together for me now.
Blur.
I went to the ISSA, that's International Singer-Songwriters Association Awards, and it was in Atlanta. And what a great time. A whole bunch of musicians and performers got together, and I was nominated for some awards and really, really blessed to win the gold for 2. So, yay! Okay, so not that. Okay, but Get After got it. So we'll give us some oomph, because Ned Albright, my songwriting partner of 15 years,
Yes.
15, 20 years, really deserved the accolade here too. And I'm so glad. So we got Female Songwriter of the Year and Single of the Year for Get After It. So hoorah, I'm happy about it. Tammany, thank you so much for all that you do for indie artists. And this is good too, because I'll probably start this entire thing off with Corinna talking about our music world. I didn't tell her that, but you know, that's gonna be fun. Don't tell anybody, but it's really hysterical. So don't forget to subscribe and like and subscribe. And do it again, please.
Go back and watch all the videos.
Oh, yeah, right. And go back and watch all of it. Yeah, I'm so good at this self-promotion thing. This is where I'm not at my best. Nikki does this well. Nikki's like, you know what? Let's just self-promote. So, without further ado, now that we've just self-promoted, go us. Actually, this is very special to me, because Corinna Mendis is a friend of mine from high school. You know, and that was just the other day. And we're really, literally just the other day. And is an amazing woman, and I love her dearly. She's had also, like me, lots of different pieces of our lives. But interestingly enough, we go back to music and we go back to performing. And some of my most important parts of my life all started in theater. And so anyways, I want to give you a moment to say hello, Corinna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Corinna. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, millions of other people. No.
I just want to say thank you so much, Kat, for having me on your show. I am so honored and thrilled, and I'm so proud of you and all of your accomplishments. And congratulations on winning those awards. I mean, you've been an inspiration to me my whole life. Ever since
Well,
so Pat and I went to high school together. We went to a prep school in Connecticut, the Ethel Walker School.
Who would have known?
or as sometimes I say, the Ethel Merman School for Unwed Mothers, but that's not. No, really, it was an all-girls prep school, kind of like the Facts of Life, right? No, there were no unwed mothers. We were all very pure and innocent. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Every single one of us.
So we had a great time. great experience. We did, as Kat said, we played a lot of guitar. We sang. We were in an a cappella group, right? The Grapes.
Oh, that's right. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
you should know that.
Yeah.
The grapes. Didn't we wear purple bow ties?
I just thought of that. I haven't thought of that forever. Yeah. We had like bow ties and boutonnieres.
Yeah, it was hysterical. We were
The Grapes.
and we it was called the Grapes, and we performed a gazillion times a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
were in
and for like
alto.
nursing homes. Yeah.
At
Right.
the nursing homes, really, just in particular. I wanted to make a
Restaurants,
really.
local restaurants in like Simsbury, Connecticut, like
Oh, that's right, that luncheon place for brunch. Remember
Yes.
the place?
I know. I haven't thought of this in years. It's like all coming back to me.
Yeah, I remember.
Who started the Grapes?
Ethel Merman. I'm kidding.
Ethel Merman.
Somewhere in Ethel Walker's world. They started the acapella group. I don't know who named it the Grapes.
I don't know how it became known as the Grapes. I have no idea. And why not the
Who knows?
It's hilarious.
But it was we were good. We were
Yeah, I'd say we were pretty. Yeah.
How many of you all was it?
were there 12 of us?
I would say 12. Yeah. I was gonna say 12. Yeah.
Corinna was an alto.
I was an alto.
Back in the day, I was a soprano.
Yep.
Another day, we will discuss why I'm now an alto. Now I did not get a sex change, if that's what everybody was thinking. I'm sorry as I wear my water on my eyebrow.
It's the rumor I heard.
Oh, well,
Don't believe it.
I love rumors. Boy, have we started this day off well. So no. But we also had a group. You're not going to remember this. Maybe you will. We were trying so hard to start a band.
Yes.
And I think didn't we call it Just Brandy?
Just Brandy. Yeah. I have no idea why.
I don't either.
I don't think we were drinking brandy. I mean, we were like 16.
She said it makes as much sense as the Grapes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so who started Just Brandy?
Myself, and so I sang and tried to play guitar because guitar is not my super positive.
Okay.
Although I will tell you that Corinna can play guitar and she sang.
Nice.
And we had a bass player, Chris Christie.
Chris Christie. Yeah. She
played bass.
Yeah.
Did we have anybody else? Did anybody play anything else?
I feel like Samantha Calamari played with us, right?
Did she do drums? No.
Drums, maybe. I feel like she played drums. Yeah.
The calamari.
Like, I'd forgotten about that.
It's just
Wow. This is what makes it so much fun.
So
Brandy, the calamari, and the Grapes.
Right.
We got in there. We played the heck out of Melissa Etheridge and Indigo Girls.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
oh wow, the Indigo Girls. That was
And
good.
all those lesbian bands at the time.
we played the best lesbian bands ever.
I wasn't
Actually,
going to say
the
anything, but
that's the truth.
No, we're not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with
right
that.
there, you're all
That's
girls school,
true.
isn't it?
That's what we support everything. But
This is a girls' school. Doesn't mean we,
yeah, well,
some people did. Some
each
people
their own. So, but we played Indigo Girls like nothing else.
Mhm. Yeah, we played the you know what out of Closer to Fine, right?
Oh,
Remember,
there
please.
is the fun. Thank God there is no video footage.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine if we had Facebook back then?
Oh,
No, I cannot because if we
so
did,
glad
a
we-
lot of
killing
actually
me, Smalls.
we did so good though.
I want to see it.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Actually, it was funny, but it was good. We got in there. We rocked it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we should talk about the reunion band.
Oh,
That'll be another
We're playing that
podcast.
together.
yeah. For the next podcast,
Yeah.
the reunion of Just Brandy.
Yeah, exactly.
Golly gee.
When is your next class reunion? We got this. Come on, get
Yeah,
it together.
Bring it on. I'm not afraid. I'm just terrified. There's a difference. Corinne and I could do it. We pull it together. I'm not sure
Yeah,
if we
we
can
can do it.
everybody else.
Of course. Yeah.
Oh my Lord. Okay,
That is hilarious.
so I digress, or
Oh,
we
God.
all digress in that one. I have like this wonderful like sunburst across me. Looks like I have like a
You look
X-ray.
as angelic now as you did in your all-girls school
I
days.
did because I was so pure. I did this lighting on purpose because I wanted to be as pure as the driven snow.
Right, this is the Lord.
This is the Lord. There's somebody help me. No, I'm kidding.
I like it.
Yeah, she's on the victim here. That's really how this goes. So okay, so I'm going to come back to reality.
Okay.
Corinna, over the years now that I have completely derailed us to the other side of the world, but that was good fun. Actually,
That was good fun.
I didn't a lot of memories. Yeah.
And you have no idea. We didn't even touch upon all the memories.
Oh, yeah.
I could go to prom night, but I'm going to keep that on the wrap.
We don't have to.
Yeah, you know. I stay on campus when you could sneak out. So over the years, after we went, so you're in Port Jeff, so everybody knows she's in New York.
I'm in Long Island, yeah, Port Jefferson.
After, raise the roof, okay, so after you left and went to college, where did the writing bug come in? We're going to get to the opioid epidemic because that's why we're here, but I want to discuss a little of that.
So where did the writing bug come in? It's funny because I went to NYU, but I didn't do any of the theater or the music or any of that stuff. I majored in psychology. And then I went and I got my master's in mental health counseling. And I worked in a homeless shelter for a long time.
Wow.
And I always said every day it was like another episode of a TV. I was like, this would be a great TV show. Initially, I thought about a documentary, and then it just kind of turned into a TV pilot. So I ended up, this was maybe 10, let's see, we filmed it in 2011. Mm-hmm. And I ended up writing and producing it on my own. Had never been to film school. I started taking writing classes online with a TV writer named Larry Brody, who has become like a mentor to me. Mm-hmm. And almost like a second father. He's wonderful. But he kind of guided me through the whole process of writing the pilot. And then he actually introduced me to some directors and a lot of people. Like once I started talking about it, people would be like, "Oh, my son is a producer, or my friend's a writer." So everyone's been, really great with connecting me with people and networking and everything. And I ended up going with the guys that Larry had suggested, Barry Gribble and Kevin Good, and they're amazing. They're in LA right now, but they're from DC. Mm-hmm. And we just did it. They directed it. Kevin was the DP. We went into Manhattan. We did the casting. I got a casting director. I mean, the whole 9 yards, you name it, we did it. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I did it, like. I
saw that whole process online, but I did not know you went through it because I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, we did everything. I mean, I hired
the Book of Faces. Because we didn't have it back in the day.
Yeah, in prep school.
Yeah. We didn't even have a cell phone.
Right, exactly.
Damn it. Oh, sorry. Oh, am I allowed to say that on YouTube?
This is the second time you've done this.
Listen, I'm going to go to
it. Was before too.
Started.
Thank you.
And heck, I should have said heck before.
By accident.
Yeah.
So, okay, they keep going. Yeah, so you got casting agents?
Yeah, we got a casting director, and I got the actor. We hired the actors. We were, we did everything in recording, in a studio in the city. We had a casting call and everything. We ended up filming it at the homeless shelter where I worked.
Oh, wow.
Which was pretty crazy in and of itself because, I had picketers in the first scene. So people would be walking by and they're like, what's going on here? Like people thought I was actually picketing the shelter, which I totally wasn't,
Yeah.
It was like a satire. I mean, I had to exaggerate,
Yeah.
But it was funny. At one point, one of the homeless guys stole Kevin's sneakers because he took his sneakers off.
Oh no!
He must have needed some shoes now. Let's give him a space.
I was like, Kevin, why would you take your sneakers? I mean, they were like really nice sneakers.
Why did you
Why
take
did
your
you take them
sneakers
off?
off?
I don't know,
Yeah.
because he likes to film with a sock, with his socks on, which is
Okay.
which I would do too, but
Really?
someone ended up stealing them. But about an hour later, they came back wearing them, and they were like posing for everyone. Oh, you like my new sneakers? I was like, like, yeah, they're great. Can you take them off now so I can give them back to my dealer?
Yeah, looks good on your feet. Okay,
That's
we're
so
done.
funny,
So
yeah.
it's like, I don't want him back now.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But so anyway, so that's kind of what, the show is sort of about, like, my experiences there when I first started working there. I was green-eyed, innocent, completely, I give the patients money, and like also, like, you'll have to watch the pilot, and it's totally, that's how I was at the time.
Yeah.
But it really just
But
it's
also a beautiful place to be, by the way. That's kind of a beautiful rite of passage to be in that green space.
I mean, I kind of come back, now I work as a physician assistant. And I worked in the emergency room and as a house PA for a long time, where I would respond to emergencies in the hospital itself. But for the past 5 years, I've been working on the detox unit. And the medical director had asked me if I was interested in working for detox, because he knew of my experience working with addicts and working with mentally ill as a counselor at the homeless shelter. So, and I just always felt like, I wanted to talk about addiction. There's always a stigma attached to homelessness and addiction and mental illness. And that's what kind of started my interest in wanting to film it and film the pilot.
Yeah.
So that's what happened there. I've worked on a few short films since. I've written a bunch of screenplays since. And now I'm working on another pilot based on the hospital now where I work.
I bet you are.
I am, yeah. And I actually am working on another screenplay on focus on addiction and like the demons that people deal with, going through, being an addict, really, and an alcoholic. Yeah, I mean, it's,
this is tremendously personal to me, so I'm very glad that we're talking about it, because my entire family deals with all of these addictions, and it has for years. So I got to tell you that
I know you've dealt with this firsthand your whole life. I mean,
tremendous challenge. So
yeah,
and painful, because it's interesting. I was talking to somebody last week, and we were discussing putting the blame where it needed to be, and which is not on the person,
right?
Which is an interesting concept, because I was having a conversation that I was putting the blame on a family member, and he said, no, you need to step back and actually see on every level where you need to put the blame, which is well, at this particular juncture, it was alcohol. And but I will say that you said something about mental illness, and I wonder if you have found that there are a lot of people who are covering what might be a mental illness or an issue. We call it mental illness, but maybe it's just an issue with their serotonin and dopamine, and they're just trying to cover it with alcohol or painkillers.
Oh, absolutely. So I mean, the two go hand in hand, And
I want to roll that, by the way. Just sorry, I listen to you, but the light is way too.
Now it's getting in your face. The angels are.
There we go. Thank you. I was trying to be angelic, and then all of a sudden I recognized it. It's come down from my.
And then you were blind.
And then I was blind, and I couldn't. No, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. So that was actually a very serious commentary. Sorry about that. Thank you. I appreciate it. How many people did you come across, Corinna? And
well, I mean, I would say
one that stuck out with you more.
I don't know. I don't know the statistics, but I would say at least 9 out of 10 of my patients have some sort of mental illness, as well as the drug addiction or alcoholism. It's a dual diagnosis, we call it. And most people, the biggest complaint or the biggest problem, I think, is the anxiety that people go through. And it's a matter of not developing, I guess, coping mechanisms, I would say. I mean, that's just one facet. That's one aspect to the whole big picture. But I think a lot of people are suffering from such anxiety that they don't know how to deal with it. And not everyone has an outlet like we do with our music, or like with the writing or filming, or, you know, or sports or whatever it may be. You know, not a lot of people have that, and they turn to drugs. You know, they start using, and oh, okay, this makes me feel good, and they want to shut off from reality completely. They don't want to feel anything emotionally or physically. You know, I mean, that's one part of it. Then I have other patients who, you know, have a history of back pain, or went through surgery, and then they doctors overprescribed it, and
I've heard that. I have a friend who's going through that right now.
yeah, yeah. And it's, you know, they were taking the medicine to get rid of the physical pain, and now it's almost developed into an emotional pain, because then, you know, when you're physically in so much pain, you can't deal with it emotionally. It's really, it's tough.
Well, here's a question and it's always been challenging for me. What we all deal with a bunch of anxiety providing experiences.
Sure.
We'll have anticipatory anxiety, whether it's to give a speech or whether you have to go deal with office workers, whatever it may be, your colleagues.
Or anything from
It's so easy to get on benzodiazepines and opioids, to let go of that. And it's such a massive epidemic here in Tennessee. Now, Nikki knows that, by the way, and as I'm going through this, Nikki has a degree in psychology as well. So,
oh, cool. Oh, nice.
Very cool. Me, thank God, she has to deal with me. But when it comes down to it, it seems like it's such a massive undertaking to try to figure out why everybody wants to escape life.
Right.
Do you and your colleagues talk about that? When I say escape life, I went through panic disorder, acute panic disorder. Yeah. And Nikki knows, and you know, I was addicted to benzodiazepines coming out of that. And I will say, let's go with the moment. And so you may be able to speak to this. Let's just say I was going through a day, and I knew I had to do my day, and I had to have a business meeting, and I was starting to feel all of those anxiety providing moments. And instead of feeling it and saying, okay, Kath, this is a moment, we're gonna be fine, let's just roll through it, deal with it.
Taking a deep breath, doing a meditation. Yeah.
Instead of that, it was like, pop this pill and it's gonna go away. And
because it's easier.
It was easier. And and I think a lot of people watching right now will understand this and feel this, until that popping a pill to make it go away got into the point where my life was going from, okay, this is great, to, oh no. Right. And everything fell down into this kind of abyss of, I'm barely surviving, I'm barely here, I'm kind of here, I'm not really thriving, God knows. And
it's easy to creep up on you, where you start taking a little bit and you're like, oh, okay, I feel good, I got this, I can handle this, I'm okay. And then the next time you might take a little bit more, and then the next time you might take a little bit more, and then you increase your tolerance, and before you know it, people, you know, I see people, and there are still doctors who prescribe 6 milligrams of Xanax a day for people.
6?
2 milligrams, 3 times a day. I still see it, because I have to. With most of my patients, I look it up. You know, we have a system in New York, and I'm sure there are other things across the nation where you can look it up, and you can see all the controlled substances that are being prescribed. So I will see that someone might be on methadone or Suboxone maintenance, and then they're also prescribed Xanax or Klonopin. Yeah. I'm like, who was giving you all this medicine? You know,
who is? I mean, Klonopin, for those of you who don't know, is kind of a slower acting benzodiazepine, whereas Xanax will go quick and back down. Right. Golly.
So then before you know it,
oh my gosh,
they're taking this amount and it's not doing anything because they built such a tolerance. But to come off of a benzodiazepine, it's pretty dangerous. It's like alcohol. I mean, alcohol, you can die from withdrawal.
Yeah.
You can have a heart attack. You can go into cardiac arrest. But you can have a
Yeah.
seizure. And with the benzos, I've seen it. I've seen you can have a seizure. You can have a stroke. It's not fun.
It's
You can
unreal. I will tell you, coming off of that, and I was only on 1 milligram, so I can't even imagine a human
even
being
1
with it.
milligram. You'll feel it. You feel the withdrawal symptoms.
It
Yeah.
was horrible. You also felt it while you were on it, right?
Mhm.
So you were on. So I went from 0.25 to 0.50 to a milligram because the panic attacks were pretty intense. I
Yeah.
wish a doctor had explained to me during that time what I read in a gosh, it was a piece from, I was on the internet back then. There were no YouTubes to help me, but it was a woman from, I'm sorry, a doctor from the UK who had written an entire piece on benzodiazepines. And at the end, it said that you can feel withdrawal symptoms while being on the same dosage because your body, it becomes used to it and it needs more. And so basically you're taking it for anxiety, but you're still feeling anxiety. And it was a really, it was an eye-opening moment. And I gave my bottle of Xanax, this is just a very honest moment, to Tom Vernon, who was I was in voiceover work at the time. He was in the other studio. And I said, you know what, Tom, I have to get off of this because it's taking me apart. And I know that I'm in trouble, but I'm going to give you this bottle unless I am crawling on the floor begging for it. And I'm in serious trouble. Do not give me this bottle until the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so it was a very interesting moment. And he basically saved me through that moment. So every single day I'd go into record, but it was very traumatizing. It was, I'm sure opioids are the same thing. I would go through that moment where my eyes were not feeling right. My brain wasn't feeling right. I was in fog.
People tell me that, like,
oh, I think we've got a question. Yeah, Tom?
You've got a question from the chat room. Take a look at your phone. I posted it to your phone.
Okay, fine. We've got a question. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, please.
Hold, please. Is it posted to my phone, Tom Schaefer? Yes, it is. Noah. Is it from Noah? Okay, so Noah, and hi Noah, how are you, sweetie? Noah's a friend of mine. Yeah, everybody would love Noah. Noah's incredible, and I've known him for years and love him very dearly. He is from Florida, and I'm not sure if he's still in Florida now, in Miami, but he says, would a structured training program help or exacerbate mental stressors that may lead to leaning on pharmaceuticals? So would the structured program help?
I think a structured program will help. I mean, definitely, for sure. I mean, there are plenty of outpatient rehabs and inpatient rehabs, and there's AA, there's NA. What I've seen with my patients is that if they go in, all programs are basically the same. And I feel like if they're really in that mindset where they really want to do it, the tools are there, and they teach you the tools in rehab, both outpatient and inpatient, where they can help you kind of just find those different coping mechanisms again, find what works for you to try and help you stay sober. I definitely think they help, but if they help, if you want it to help, it works if you want it to work.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. It works if you work it.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's scary.
It's
Truth
very
be told,
scary. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people go through it, and I've seen a lot of people fail. And
oh yeah, and well, I mean, and the thing is, I think you have to go through 7 or 10 rehabs before it clicks. I mean, it doesn't happen the first time. With some people it does, but with a lot of people it doesn't. It takes many times. And as we were saying before about with the withdrawal symptoms, I mean, that's a big thing. Especially coming off of opiates. Like in the hospital where I work, it's a high level medical detox. So really, we're focused on alcohol and benzos, but we also have heroin addicts. I mean, where I am in Suffolk County, it's one of the hugest epidemics in the country, but let's face it, it's all over the world right now. But what I was going to say was that, you know, a lot of them want to stop. A lot of addicts want to stop, but then they say, okay, I'll kick it on my own, and I'll
And
just
now,
just
get
stop
ready.
using. But the withdrawal symptoms are so
Welcome.
bad and so terrible that it's like some people can't just lock themselves in a room and for a week and not do anything but sit in the, you know, like in a fetal position, you know, like eventually they want that to go away, because I know that it's like the flu times 1,000. So I know I wouldn't want to be feeling that, you know, and if people are feeling that, they just start using again, you know.
Are the benzos and the opioids the same type of response physically when you're,
With the withdrawal symptoms?
Yeah.
They have some similarities. You know, benzos are actually more similar to alcohol because it's the shaking that you get. It's the hot and cold sweats. It's these like zaps of like electricity that kind of go through your body, and really like the shakes, you know,
that foggy kind of
foggy, you know, with alcohol,
my brain.
Right. With alcohol, you get the hallucinations, but you can get that with benzo too. You know, with the opiates, it's more like the restless legs, also the hot and cold sweats, but the nausea, the vomiting, the diarrhea, the skin crawling, like,
Ooh.
yeah. It's really just, it's not fun.
If you're addicted to opioids, do you have issues with memory and like?
I think so. I think more so with benzos, but definitely with opiates too. It affects your memory for sure. Yeah. And alcohol. I think benzos are the worst though. Benzos, it seems like they're like memory erasers, you know, like. Yeah.
It was interesting. I had a chiropractor down in Miami who during that time I would go see him 3 times a week. But he was really against benzodiazepines because he talked about having to try to fire up your central nervous system.
Right.
He said, "I get why you did it, Kat." He said, "But you're gonna have to fight like dukes up to try to get out of this." And it's been a long lifetime journey for me to get out of that headspace, because once you've done benzodiazepines and you feel that kind of
euphoria or that.
Yeah,
it's hard to find something else that makes you feel that way. Same thing with the opiates, you know.
And Tennessee is I think it's number 1. Am I correct in saying that? It's number 1 for epidemic of opioids.
I want to say yes.
I think it is. And it's scary because again, it's a huge nation filled of, and I'm not judging because golly, you know, not only do I have a whole family, but I've fought it my entire life.
And it can happen. It does not discriminate. It can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
Of any class, you know. And
by the grace of God, I have fitness in my world, and so it is constantly holding me accountable to taking care of my physique. But it does not mean that I have not gone back and forth in my life and experienced it.
Yeah.
And I had the greatest amount of love, Corinna, and empathy and compassion for people going through it.
Yeah.
And I like give me a for instance of somebody coming in.
I mean, like I said, it affects everyone. So I think it's coming out. I think it's more, people are more aware of it now because it is affecting more people in higher socioeconomic classes. You know, I have anesthesiologists calling me, oh, my son, or nurses calling me, you know, can you get my son in? You know, or I even have a lot of healthcare professionals that coming off of alcohol, you know, and healthcare professionals abusing opiates because they have access to it. Mostly nurses. I actually don't have access to it, which I'm happy about. You know, I don't want it. But I do know, I mean, it affects some of the nurses too, where they might have, and again, it could be some sort of back pain, or you have surgery and you had, you know, knee pain or shoulder, whatever. And they start taking it, and then they start taking some of the patients, you know, they dispense half of it and give themselves half. And then,
oh, wow.
Yeah. I've seen it happen. Yeah. And to the most amazing people too. I mean, to people that I love dearly, you know, and I've been working with forever, and it just happens, you know, like I said, it doesn't discriminate.
And it's interesting because some of the, I'm not sure what Percocet is. Percocet is
That's also an opiate, but there's also, it's like, there's Tylenol in there too. It's oxycodone and Tylenol, yeah.
That's what we had the conversation. That was something for surgery that they gave me. And like codeine, some of the painkillers, my painkillers and opioids I don't really respond well to.
Mm-hmm.
Something about Percocet, and I know I've got more. I'm ethereal once again. I had Percocet and Soma,
Mm-hmm.
and to people who are watching who are maybe suffering from it right now, I got to tell you, I absolutely 100% get why
Mm-hmm.
you feel like you got to have it forever. I was absolutely functioning perfectly, and I felt like for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't judged, and I just didn't care. And it was in
Like
life is
everything was okay. Everything.
absolutely everything was fine. This was years ago. This was over 25 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I recall going, "Oh my heavens, I can't have this. I can't have this anymore."
And then it creeps up on you too. All of a sudden one day you're like, how did this happen? How am I like now, like every day relying on this,
And then people can't get it from some of the doctors, and what do? What's the next step that they do?
And then they start buying it on the streets, and then the pills cost, $30 a pill, and who knows what's in them. Because a lot of them aren't from the pharmaceutical companies. They're being manufactured by who knows in China somewhere, and they're putting God knows what, PCP, fentanyl, all sorts of crap,
Goodness.
Yeah, and then they turn to heroin because it's cheap,
Yeah, that's
so expensive.
and what a heck of a jump. I think people don't even recognize this thought pattern, but a jump from taking a pill and putting it in your mouth to actually,
Right.
taking something and popping it in your vein.
Yeah.
You must be highly addicted and in desire of that let go.
So
to
bad.
actually
Yeah.
do that.
Right.
I'm
They inject it and they sniff it also, or they can smoke it as well.
that's right. I think it's not, yeah.
Do other, yeah. There's different ways that you can do it, but
What a world that we've created.
I know.
And it's interesting to say this, and I think you both will agree with me. We've created this world.
Yeah.
That is so filled with anxiety and judgment and quote unquote perfection, desire to be perfect, or blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Or all of, I mean, if you go onto YouTube, you'll see all of the, and I do it, and I'm guilty of it. These you can make it happen. Get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or get up at 4, get up before everybody else, and stay up late, and all this type of energy.
Well, having to constantly go, you have to have downtime. I think as Americans, we feel like we're constantly running around. We constantly have to get to that next level. And it's not like in Europe where they're all off the month of August, they honor that time and that self-care. And, a lot of us don't, I
Why
find
do you think we don't? Why don't we in America? Why in France and in Germany and beyond? You know more about Greece than I do, but why do they honor that month? They'll take literally a month off. Why do we not?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why do we idolize people who have false perfection?
Right.
We want to assume that we're better.
Yeah. I guess we feel that makes
by
sense.
taking off, because lazy people don't do
Because that means you're lazy, right?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense, Nikki. Yeah.
So while you sitting at home for your month, I've jumped that much ahead of you.
Yeah. Right. And most Americans only have 2 weeks off a year of vacation. Yep. That's not enough time,
No.
and we work like crazy, I mean, it's not just a 40-hour work week, it's a 60-hour or an 80-hour,
It's insane.
Yeah.
And I think that
it's important. It's important to take that time, to take that downtime. I mean, I find it too. I go, because there's so many things that I like to do. And I have to take that time for myself because otherwise I get an ulcer. You
know that moment. So let's go with, we know the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that pills and potions are readily available at our fingertips whenever we need it. And so we have a huge portion of people who are addicted to let-go drugs.
Right.
What could possibly, beyond, as Noah said, recovery programs, what could we do to dig in deeper to help people? And this is a big question because it's digging in deeper to help people recognize.
Well, I think we need more programs. I mean, we have some, but we need more. and we need more, and not rehab isn't going to work for everyone. I think everyone has, it's an individual thing. There are some people that say that they go to AA or they go to NA or HA, and that works for them. And if they do it and they go to meetings every day and or a couple times a week, and find that support network of people who are sober, who are willing to stay sober, you know what I mean, who are trying and they want that, and like they kind of rely on each other. I think we need more programs that will encourage people to stay sober, because a lot of these, I know with our detoxes, we have 20 beds, right? And we always have more than 20. Initially it was 10 beds. We've increased it. Now we have 20 beds. The other day I walked in and I had 32 people admitted,
Wow.
with more people coming through. They come in the hospital.
And wait, let me interrupt you for a moment. When they're admitted, where are they at? Most of them.
You mean like
emotionally? Why are they admitted?
Oh, I mean, they're either there because they're mandated, you know what I mean, either by CPS or the court for whatever reason. A lot of people have DWIs or other things happen, and the court mandates them. Those are the people that really don't want to be there and they don't care. Those are the people that are smuggling and stuff, and we end up finding it, and then I have to kick them out, But then there are the other people who emotionally are just, they feel broken, they feel like they don't know if they can ever get out, because it's such a downward spiral that they're at their lowest.
Yeah. Yes, I do know.
And they don't know if they can get out of it. But we're there, and I try and be as positive as I can, and try, and we have a great staff. All our nurses are amazing. Everyone they try and be positive. It's hard to stay positive after a while, because a lot of times you see the same people coming month after month.
Battle Duke's up. They're trying to battle, and they fail. Well.
Yeah. But you know what? I even if they get they're like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed, and like, you're seeing me again, and I'm like, you know what? You're here. That's the most important thing. You're trying.
The fact that they feel that, oh my God, I'm embarrassed because I shouldn't be here, means that in their mind they're still working towards the I don't want to be here.
Exactly. Yeah.
The
And
pain
I
is
say
my
to
heart.
them, it's not, I try not to beat yourself up too much. I know it's human nature. We're going to beat ourselves up, but I'm like, be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you because you're back. You're here. You're trying.
You didn't just give up and be like, it didn't work the last time, so I'm just not going to do it.
Right,
It doesn't matter.
Right. The fact that they came back is a huge thing, But like I said, I think it's, a lot of them then go and they go to rehab. Okay, so they go to a 28-day. Then what? What do they do after? It's like every day, it's a constant struggle. If going to counseling works, then they should go to counseling. If going to AA works, they should go to AA. There's also medically assisted therapy or medically assisted treatment where people go on methadone maintenance, or they go on Suboxone maintenance, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But if people actually take this, we use Suboxone where I am. We don't use methadone. But if people go on the maintenance, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because a lot of people who do it and they take it every day, they're living they can live a productive life again, and some people say, oh, well, you're just trading one for the other, and like, you're just substituting one opiate for another opiate. And it's like, yeah, but heroin and fentanyl and carfentanil and all the other stuff, that'll kill you. Suboxone's not going to kill you, and if it can help you lead a productive life again and rebuild those relationships with your family, why not? Trying to get off of it in the long run is another story, but I think it works for some people. There's all sorts of different things. There's, like I said, methadone maintenance. There's also a shot that there's a Vivitrol shot that people can take once a month.
Wow.
And it binds to the opiate receptors, to the opiate receptor sites, and it reduces the cravings. And I find that my patients who actually have tried it and they do it and they go once a month, it's easier because they don't have to take anything every day. It's just a once a month thing. It actually works for them and they stay sober.
Wow.
And that's the type of thing that'll help both opiate and alcohol.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they stop with the shot for whatever reason, they couldn't get to their appointment or the insurance didn't cover, or then they relapse again. It's interesting, you know.
And by the way, because I've been in health and wellness for the better part of 25 years, I will tell you, losing weight and changing the physical body is absolutely identical.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
It is identical to coming off of opioids or coming off of, because it's sugar, which is highly addictive. Not always sugar, but that's one of the major issues that people who are dealing with obesity or morbid obesity are dealing with. And it's a constant fight. I've watched it. I've watched people come back in, Duke's up. I've got it this time.
Right.
Got it right here, and then got it to right here. And then what I have noticed in their lives is what happens is life happens. Anxiety happens, whether it's work or husband, wife, children. And it goes right back to the number one thing you said, which was coping mechanisms, because we have become, and I'm not saying this in a mean way because I'll have to speak to myself this way, because I mean, I've been in, I understand health and wellness and fitness, so I'll Dukes up really hard.
Yeah.
But when it came to benzos, it was becoming stronger. It was getting the inner gut and the vivid inner. I'm fighting for a word for this, but there's that internal something.
Inner strength and
maybe it's resilience, but it certainly is that in you little blank, blank, blank. You're either going to get gutty and get out of this, or you're going to be a weak, feeble-minded nut. I'd have to get really, because most people don't know, when I came out of acting school, I was up at 220, a little over 220 pounds. So I lost a lot of weight. And in that time, I had to battle cigarette smoking. I had to battle sugar. I had to battle alcohol. I battled it all. And it was
all
like
addiction,
a constant fight. It felt like I was being pummeled. And all along the way, the little inner nucleus was, you've lost who you want to be. You've lost belief in self. You've lost you. And so maybe for a lot of people out there, there's that headspace of, are you being you?
Right.
Are you being the real, authentic, genuine, loving, awesome you? Or are you being the person that you're encapsulated around what your mom and your dad and your sister and your brother and your friends think you're supposed to be? Or maybe perhaps you've said that you want to be, but maybe that's not really who you want to be.
Right. Right.
And I think that when we're not being our authentic selves, it's very easy to get caught up into alcohol and cigarettes and eating way too much, or taking, one person's pizzas, another person's Xanax, believe it or not, one person's.
Well, let's face it, I think we're all addicted to something, you know, whether it's food or.
Except for me, because I'm perfect.
Right.
I had to go for the laugh. We all know that.
So am I. I mean, come on. No.
Renee, you were like, oh.
The Lord shine his light on.
That's why the Lord shines his light on me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Corinna and I went to
So
a school that made us perfect.
Well, I mean, I think there are good addictions and bad addictions. There's healthy addictions and unhealthy addictions, you know, and I think some people have to substitute the unhealthy addiction with a healthy addiction. I know an actress who was a heroin addict, and she's been sober now, I want to say 16 years, and she used acting as a way to get clean, and she's been clean and sober, you know, all this time. What's that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Acting was
the acting, which is what pulled her through, and still does, you know, and she's a producer, and she makes movies, and also, you know, this is what helps her stay sober.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
or you know, exercising, you know, I mean, that's an addiction too, but it's a healthy addiction. And or meditation, you know, these are all other, it's like you have to kind of retrain your brain, I think, to get into that other mindset. You know,
that desire to want to be afraid and be scared and do it anyways.
Right, but still do it. Yeah.
Look at life. I'm terrified of it. There are a lot of friends I know who can barely get up in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once they do, they'll get it and get themselves together, but they're so traumatized because
Right.
they simply can't
Right. It's
rally.
hard to get out of that and to get to that point where you're on your way, you know. But then there's a flip side, because then when you're doing it and you're like, I feel great, this is awesome, then people stop doing the things that they were doing, and then they fall back into
Back
the
in the same
you know,
pattern.
spiral. Yeah. Yeah. So
Oh,
it's an everyday struggle, I think, you know. And I
can't-
think the more negative thoughts you have, the more that's going to perpetuate. You know, there's a movie called What the Bleep Do We Know? I don't know if you know. It's a documentary. It's amazing. But have you heard of it?
Corey Baker, I think I have it in my bookshelf. He said, Kat, you've got to see this. You've got to see this.
What the Bleep Do We Know?
And
Oh,
Tom, yes, and I never did. Was it you, Tom, that gave it to me, or are you coming here because Tom gave it to me, or said I need to go see it? I never did go see it.
And I think everyone should see it. Anyone who's watching, listening, should go see it, because it really talks about Tom's seen it.
Tom's a full believer, Tom.
It's true, though. I mean, really, like.
Oh wait, I've got another. Somebody else is asking questions.
Okay.
But keep talking about what the bleep do we know, so I can.
I mean, basically, it's if you start having negative thoughts, your brain chemistry changes, so that even if you start to have a positive thought, you'll revert back into that negativity. So if you kind of retrain yourself to have those positive thoughts, your brain chemistry will then change again. You know, you'll start having, increasing more of the dopamine and the serotonin, and yeah, that's kind of, I mean, that's the basic premise of it. But
watched it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what Noah's saying. So Noah is saying anything, whether rehab or weight loss, has a better chance of success with a good support system.
Yes.
Unfortunately, many people want to drag you down with them so they're not alone. And that's a very interesting, that's very true.
Yep. And that's exactly what, it's the same vein as what the movie talks about, because misery loves company, right? If someone's miserable, they're going to try and make you, and they see that you're happy. They're like, well, why are you happy? What are you so happy about? And they're going to try and make you, whether it's conscious or subconscious, it happens,
Yeah, it does happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I wish in 45 minutes we could actually
solve the opiate epidemic.
The opioid epidemic.
Interestingly enough, of life.
I know, right? So we've solved it today, right here on. No, I will say this though. I find that there are some people that I'm around who are living what I'll call a healthy life, but they're happier, and those people are less apt to want to be or to fall into that trap of having to be what mom and dad want them to be, or what the people around them want to be, and or this machine wants them to be. They're less apt to want to do that, and they're more apt to just want to be the very awesome, amazing human they are. Those are the people I look at and I go, I can take, a lesson from you. I'm going to take a note out of your journal or a chapter out of the journal. And I don't know if you find that with the people who come in. I know we have to wrap it up, but do you find that from people who come in that they talk to you about wanting to be?
Yeah. Just be who they are, I mean, there's so many reasons why a lot of my patients, they start using with their parents. So that's a whole other thing. Their parents start using with them.
Yeah.
A lot of them, you're right. They have those pressures of, they have to be this type of person, or they have to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. And they don't want to do that, but then they follow that cookie cutter, what everyone else should be, and keeping up with the Joneses, and that's not who they are. So they
do whatever it takes to try to be able to bridge the gap.
Right. And mask the pain that they're feeling. Yeah.
It's a scary place, because you and I went to boarding school with a lot of people who were trying to mask the pain. We know.
Right.
So, and absolutely no judgment to that. And that's because there were a lot of incredible women who went there who were very, very powerful, strong, awesome, doing things out there that are great. But they also had some moms and dads who believed that they knew what was better for them than they were.
Right.
So,
right.
Corinna, I'm so glad you were on today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's really it's been a pleasure. And I just always love talking to you. I mean, and Nikki, it's so great to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. You are just as nice as she said you were.
I did. I spoke well.
She's a good. No, I'm just
kidding. No, you're awesome.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
you're awesome. You're awesome. And this is the most valuable conversation I think we could have had because.
And we can continue it, I mean, another time. It's something I think everyone has to know and be aware of and realize, it can happen to anyone. It really can. And not to be judgmental and just to be open. And I know it's hard for families because it really does rip families apart and people get really exhausted dealing with loved ones who are constantly stealing from them and in this, but you just have to try and stay positive and keep staying positive, because there is hope.
I was going to say, and keep believing that there is hope. That's so funny. Believing beyond it. There is life after panic and there is life after opioid addiction. So I know that it's just finding the right people around you. I'm glad you do what you do. I got to be honest with you. Opioids are not my thing, but if they were, honey, I would be blessed to walk into a hospital and know that you were by my side. You are that type of woman, and I'm grateful to know you. And I'm not going to cry on camera because that's pathetic. So, but you are. But man up, Kat. But you are amazing, and I'm blessed to know you. And I know you're doing a project on the hospital now. You're doing another.
Yeah. Well, actually, with all the writing projects, I'm actually going to start filming a documentary on addiction, and I want to focus on the recovery. The people in recovery, not the people that are on the streets using. I want to focus on the people that are actually sober and they've stayed sober and they can stay sober. It's possible.
People need to see that.
Yeah.
Even though you're here right now, there is another part to this that you can come out of it and stay out of it.
Yeah.
But when you get the people who are always in the eye of the storm, they're thinking, why should I bother? So that's good.
Right.
You would give them hope.
Yeah.
Right. And the people that are in recovery have been in that point where they were in the eye of the storm and they never thought they'd get out of it, but they are, and they've managed to get out of it and stay sober. So it's possible. It can happen.
And I'm so glad you're doing a documentary on that because I think it's valuable for people to see that those who have gone past that edge. Because I remember vividly remember saying, I'll never live a normal life again. Yeah. And I had people around me and people in church and people in music and people in health and wellness saying, Kat, there was life before panic. There will be life after it.
Mm-hmm. And you did it.
Yeah, and exactly. And there wasn't until after that, I never thought I could live a day. Matter of fact, I couldn't perform on stage at all for 2.5, maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
And so Corinna knows, Corinna and I in school would perform 100 times a year. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
and
we were constantly in the plays and the musicals and you always got on stage. I mean, you were natural,
Natural until the coping mechanisms went away. I'm like, where are they? They're in a bottle. Darn it, what happened? That little orange bottle. Yeah, no, I'm joking, but it's not funny. But it really became. We had great coping mechanisms, and so I urge people to go back to when they were in high school and think, what was life like before I went home to have a cocktail at night? Before I felt like I had to have something from my little orange bottle. Life before, what did I not like? Hoorah! What was it like in happy space? Because I had a mom and dad. No, that took care of things. No, what was in your fighting self?
Right. What did you want to do? What did you want to be? What was the stuff you loved to do when you were a kid? Like get back to those times, or even if
we weren't focused on it. I mean, honestly, Corinna, I'd say the only thing that there's some people, maybe on the weekends we would have some beers or a drink.
Yeah.
Maybe some weed here and there. I don't mind saying that out loud, but it wasn't every day, and it certainly wasn't even every week.
There's a time and a place for everything. You know? As my dad, who was from Greece, he passed away earlier this year. He always said, everything in moderation, which is what the ancient Greeks always said. You can have it, do it in moderation.
Yeah.
Except for cigarettes and heroin. I think you can't do those in moderation.
Except for cigarettes, alcohol, heroin, opioids, and those. Not so much.
If you can do things in moderation, ideally, that's the way to go.
Wait a minute. And food and. No, I'm sorry. I was going to go off the edge, but there we go. That's where it gets ugly. Those who succeed, by the way, and I put it on my Facebook page today. It's interesting. Dieters, people who are eating well and then they eat one bad meal and it screws it up for the whole month.
Right.
Except for the people who say, "Oh, I had a bad meal. Let me just jump back on and okay, that was a bad meal," and go on and back into your plan. Same thing. Addiction.
Right. Even if you relapse, it's okay. Just get back up and try again.
Jump back on.
Yeah, exactly.
Love you, sweetie.
Love you too, Kat.
Before we leave, you said you shot a pilot, right? Tell the people what the name of the pilot is.
It's called Not in My Neighborhood, and it's on YouTube. If you type in Not in My Neighborhood TV pilot, it'll come up.
Not in My Neighborhood TV. Will you write that down?
Yeah.
Okay. She's got it written.
If you feel like watching, it's 20 minutes.
I'm going to put it on my Facebook page.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
Another wonderful social media.
Excellent. Thank you.
I think the addictions got worse when social media got more. So
well, that's another addiction, right? I mean, sit here all day. I'm like,
doesn't pick up their phone as soon as they wake up.
I don't. I'm just kidding. I do, and everybody's walking around.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even grow up with it, and it's like, oh, I got to see who's texting me. I got to, it's like a constant.
Who's on Facebook today? Who cares?
Right.
Yeah. Message to the wise. Who cares? There was a life before social media. People actually interacted.
Yes.
And again, moderation. If we can go on, you see, it's a great way to keep in touch with everyone. I keep in touch with my friends all over the country, obviously, my relatives in Europe. But then there's a time to put the phone down and actually have a conversation and not keep looking at the phone every 2 seconds,
Totally agreed. Honey, I love you very much. And I
love you too. Thank you so much for having me. I know we could talk all night.
Honey, and everybody, I'm going to repost this on my Facebook page, and I'm going to say one more time, make sure that you subscribe to
subscribe
to CatSpan and YouTube. Woo! Love you. Woo! Thank you guys for joining us again. I'm Kat Beach.
I'm Nikki Henning.
Thank you. And this is Corinna Mendis, and we have been talking about some extraordinarily important things. Have an amazing day, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks for joining us on CatSpan. We had a blast, and we thank you for all your questions. Come hang with us next week. Same time, same station.
We play the game to win. We refuse to lose. And we only get stronger and stronger. We're gonna dig deeper and deeper. We play the game to win.